All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I think where we left off about 61, is that right? 67? Trying to remember.
Stapled.
No, we
It was
balanced it.
balanced?
Pete's sake. I'll have this so screwed up.
Put it to the beginning balance.
That's right.
I will let you guys know, one change I will make to this before we have a final reading is right now, as long as you all are comfortable with it, each department has their life insurance divided out, and now that we've changed this other life insurance, as individuals get into the next tier, so what they're charged is based on their age. So as they age out of one tier into another, it's going to cost us a little bit more, and that will be kind of a headache for us to constantly change that coding in our new computer system. So it'd be easier for me if we paid everybody's life insurance out of one line. So if y'all are agreeable to that, I will take it out of each department and we'll just have it as a line in the general fund, like how we used to pay for wellness expenses when we did the wellness program.
Fine by me.
You gonna put that in the general fund line?
I'll put it in the general fund, which is where the wellness line was back when we did that. I'll probably actually use the same line as what used to be the wellness line.
Where did our occupational tax end up? I know you had some other deposits to make on that.
You had asked me to get a figure for you, and I had forgotten. The deposit I made the other day after I said I would was $60,000. So if that helps you, as far as the bottom number, I can't remember what it was. I know I brought you guys a number,
5.8?
5.8 maybe, so
I think you
60
said
more.
5.9 at one day, so somewhere in that.
Okay.
I have to look back and see, or 5.89, something like that. So
That sounds about right.
before we do the first reading, could you update the investment
Yes, and I'll actually probably have some
so that
transfers
that's not,
to cover some of our investment related activities on
Yeah.
this meeting that we have this coming Friday.
because it just looks
Yeah. and once-
deceiving. It
Yeah,
shows like a 26 million when it's
right.
18.
And once I have those transfers on Friday, then we should basically have, that should give me what our number is that we have still to spend.
Okay.
I'm pretty certain all of the projects are something has been paid on all of the projects at this point. I'm pretty certain.
Okay. Did you see my email?
Hmm?
Did you see my email on that? On the hours? She said they don't do anything in May and June because of the budget.
Yes, I saw that.
All right.
So I'll need to up that also. I'll need to adjust yours, again also,
Yeah, I mean,
probably.
it's
I need to
in
look at
there
it.
in this one, but
Right.
however whatever you need.
All right. Any other questions or issues? So the budget as is of today is balanced, and this is, before we go to the first reading, everybody's good with the budget?
No, coroner's building lease, have we figured something out about that?
Well, the funeral home, it's still gonna be a cost. Funeral home had offered space a couple of years ago, so that's still gonna be a cost. So if we still want to, save monies there and put the coroner's office in a county facility, I know you have some objections to that, but, as it sits right now, the budget does not have monies for the lease.
I'd like to see that put in there also. I don't want to see it moved down to Hardin by the park.
Where do you want that money to come from?
Well, I guess we can go through and see if there's anything else and see what our total is. I'm not opposed to adding it to the occupational number if we have to. Certainly way more than comfortable with 5 million.
So, question for you logistically. When 911 is moved, is there room in there for what the coroner's office needs, or is that not a comparable?
That's 400 square feet, is what that is.
Down where they're at right now?
Get in and out.
I don't,
No way to do that.
I don't think that's big enough. Location-wise is good, but I don't think it's big enough.
I don't know how you make it private enough to move egress and maybe put a fence up or something.
I mean, you're not talking too much activity annually, but you could have incidences where there's no activity to quite a bit of activity, but space-wise, I think would be the issue. We do have county facilities that can facilitate that operation. From the way it looks, Michael's not running again. If somebody else runs, coroners can run their operations wherever they want.
I'm not in favor of putting it hard. With that park there and that church right across the road where they do their youth services, it's not a good idea. City council at Hardin's against it. Everybody that lives along that community building's against it. I can't be for it.
The community building is managed by the city council. Is managed by the city council.
Is it managed by the city council? The county owns the building.
The county owns it. The agreement was that the monies that they make off of it go to the city council. And then it passed through the city council to the senior citizens, which is no longer organized. Actually, it was never really technically recognized by the state, but the letter that was sent to the court was that they shut down their operations, I think, last year. So there's nobody in the facility. We own it. Utilities are still on. How much is the utilities a year? I can't remember.
Or you looked into that, didn't you?
No, off the top of your head. Yeah. So, utility expenses on an empty building is what we've been paying for. So that's budgeted.
Mayor
It's not
in-
occupied.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
It's
Mayor indicated that they would like to rent it out for events, but they haven't heard anything back from your office on doing that. They were prepared to do that when COVID hit, and they were told to stop, and then they were never given the green light to do it again. They would like to have events back out there. I mean, I'm afraid if we give that to the coroner's office and you shut that down, basically, I mean, you're taking one of the very few things that Hardin has away from them.
Let me go get their letter so that you guys can see their correspondence. So this is obviously we have all of our lease agreements. This is the lease agreement between the fiscal court and the Hardin Senior Citizens. This was signed the 17th of June, 2019. So the senior citizens, they shut down their operations. If you remember in the lease agreement, the proceeds that are made off of the county facility goes to the senior citizens. Since they shut down their operations, the mayor this is from the senior citizens who he is the co-chair of the board of directors, sent a letter December 2nd of 2019. So this was pre-COVID. This letter is to serve as a notification that the Hardin South Marshall senior citizens that will no longer need to lease the building located at 112 High School Street due to closing the center. This will become effective January 1, 2020. Please advise us on how the utilities need to be handled in order to have them transferred to the county. And that the utilities were transferred to the county. So I don't know as far as the lease agreement for the building, there's no organization that's using the building, so we currently don't have any lease agreements.
I know Hardin was interested in renting it out for birthday parties, wedding showers, things of that nature. And they were wanting to do that, but they said that they were told from your office that they couldn't do it until COVID was over and everything. So I'd like to see us work with them and figure out a way that they can start renting that out again.
If they're referring to the COVID, those were, I believe, under the 39A emergency orders, that facilities be shut down for gathering. But as far as communication for since, I mean, we've got our facilities back open. There hasn't been any communication. So the city of Hardin is wanting to rent it out.
For the citizens out there, there's a lot of folks that use that building.
Where's the money going?
Well, I think we need to figure out a rent structure, that way we can put it back into the building to upkeep and maintain the building, because you all been out there recently, I mean, it needs some work out there. But the rent structure is not sustainable right now. I mean, we're gonna have to figure out a way we can put money back into it. I hate to see that just given to another department or be shut down, because Hardin doesn't have much as it is anyways, and any way we can help them out, I think we're obligated to do so.
Any suggestions?
I'm for leaving the coroner's lease where it's at if the landlord's willing to do so at the same amount.
Where do you want the monies to come from?
it's like I said, we can increase the occupational tax amount to cover that. It's only $7,200.
How much?
7,200.
Here's the coroner's budget. Well, it's blanked out right now, but this is where it normally comes from.
We've got the occupational tax at what, 5 million? Add it to that as far as I'm concerned.
Is that what everybody wants?
Do we have any other changes so that we know?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if there's gonna be other changes, let me just start a running list, and that way we'll know a total. Is that okay?
I think that would be,
I'll bring up my second point then. I think the maintenance worker that I've been talking about for the last 2 months needs to be bumped up where everybody else on the same crew is making. We're gonna have possibly a couple that are retiring in the next few years, and if we don't start, pay this individual what he's worth, 'cause, I mean, he's the future of that department.
We've gone over this. The current admin code, that amount exceeds the position that he is currently in.
yeah, I think
Can
if you're
we,
gonna do
I mean,
it,
there's no,
if you're gonna do it,
Let's Friday put
Due
it
to
on the
the-
agenda and
to
amend
the
the
admin
administrative
code.
code.
You know what I'm saying?
yes.
But the admin code is like, if I remember this right, I'd have to go back in my notes, but I think the admin code would be like $19.13.
That's $1.19 less, and that adds up.
But I agree with you, but it's still probably, what, $4 more than it is right now, something like that? Or
making-
$3.
About $3. I think he needs to be making 2019. He works side by side with them, does the same amount of work. I think he needs to be paid accordingly.
Yeah, and I understand that. We've had these discussions, but when the court puts a policy in place and you don't follow the policy, you start to chase, I think you're gonna see it's gonna get, cause more problems. Because
We have the ability to amend the code, and I think we should do it. That's just my opinion.
we do have the ability to amend the code. But the admin code isn't amended as we speak. And we can't discuss, we can't say that it's going to be a unanimous decision, so.
Oh, absolutely, but we can put it on the
Yeah.
agenda and vote for it. That's what we're all here. We all got to vote, and we,
I understand where you're coming from, but I think for the purpose of this budget today, though, I don't think we should go above that 1913 until, like what he
I'm
said.
comfortable with that.
And then,
We can discuss it
You
on
know,
Friday.
Okay.
but
I'm
You see what I'm
following with you, but I'm going to ask a simple question. I'm only hearing one employee. We've got multiple employees and department heads who feel the same way. The admin code, what we didn't have 6 years ago, was a pay scale. That was the goal, was to put a pay scale in place so that as an employee comes in, they can see what they can make over the years. And we can budget accordingly. I don't think that it's a good idea to, and I've had these discussions. I've had the discussions with the individuals involved. That particular department, when the admin code was put in place, they were all outside the high end.
But all due respect, I think the person that put the admin code did not know what these individuals do. They do carpentry, they do plumbing, they do electrical, they do painting. You contract all that out, you're gonna be paying a lot more than what you're paying these individuals. And there is no path to move forward. I mean, you're either a maintenance worker or you're the maintenance director, and that's it. The other departments have a path where they can move up, and I just think this department is a little different than the others.
Yeah, but you can't compare to a licensed plumber. These gentlemen are not licensed. And it's not about the issue of what's going to cost. When this first was put out, the premiums were offered to the department heads. Some departments put premiums in place. The court recognized them. Other departments didn't. We asked, what premiums could you put in place if there's a position that the employee is doing work where there's a premium that was available to the departments to show extra, compensation. But, we're getting on a slippery slope where we get outside of what we set in an admin code for a pay scale. And the admin code can be adjusted, but it's not as we sit here today, just like what Monty was saying. And you've got other employees who watch the budget meetings, and when they see actions like this being discussed, better believe my office is getting contacted, and before you know it, you lose control of
And I
what
want to
was
make it clear
intended.
too, that this individual did not come to me. I don't know if he come, but he did not come to me, ask
No.
for this. This was something that I saw, and I just think he needs to be paid accordingly. He's doing the same amount of work, if not more, being the new guy, but you're making $4 an hour less doing the same amount of work. It brings down morale.
And when we look at the pay scale, and when you look at justification for pay increases in something that the court has put in place, it's that department's responsibility that's to sit there and document, what it is that employee is doing. Some departments are better than others, but as a fiscal court, when we look at that, obviously we're not directly supervising these employees. We hire employees to be supervisors, and all across the board, department heads and supervisors are managing the people that we hire to provide a service. And each employee, they should be documented as far as a good employee. So when you look at that ladder, that pay scale,
And his supervisor has recommended he be bumped up as well, so. I think
Yes.
He recognizes how good of a worker he is too, and how big of an asset he
But-
is to that department.
but you said it, and they did too. I've had these conversations. The justification is because the guy beside him is making more money than him. That's not what I'm talking about. I know when I first started out, the guy beside me was making more money than me. It was because I started out at the lower end. I didn't have the years of experience yet as the
But
individual
in that department
beside
too,
me.
you look at the length of service, and they vary, yet they're all making the same amount, so.
Their pay, that's what I say, back before this was implemented, there was no pay structure. It was just everybody made the same. That's not a very good model for the taxpayer or the individual involved. Because essentially, he's an employee that, as it sits right now, I think he's been employed, nothing against the employee, but he's been employed for a year. Right at a year, you're going to max him out basically off the chart. And if he's a 20-year employee, he has he's at the ceiling. And what you do is you create an environment where, at some point, he's going to be asking this fiscal court, regardless of who's sitting here, when am I going to get a pay raise?
I think you got to take into account too, you're gonna have about 3 of them retire within the next couple of years, and he's gonna be the only one there. You need somebody in that department that knows what's going on.
Yeah, and retirements, that's going to happen. I mean, the pay scale in place is to show the employee when they come into where we hire them. So we hire them to come in to work either here or here. They see where they come in and they get paid, and as they work out their tenure, they can see where the pay raises. I think there's 3 or 4 levels without seeing it in front of me. And just kind of like what you were saying, the top end, which is level 4, is 19 something. He's a 1-year employee. You have to think of departments like his department and other departments that, you know, those employees are working on that same ladder, and then they see this employee that's been in for 1 year go straight to the top with only
I
just.
don't want to pit department against department, but they have a ladder to climb up. There is no ladder in that department, none.
Yeah, there's a pay scale, that's the ladder.
There is no ladder. I mean, you're either a worker or you're a supervisor. That's all you are.
No,
There's one supervisor.
No, there's 4 classes. There is a pay scale ladder. That's what I'm talking about. And that's where the premiums come in, as if, say, there was, spraying chemicals. That's a premium for the employees. If they get certified to spray chemicals, then they get an additional premium added to their overall pay because they're doing.
So is painting a premium? All these things that they do, are those considered premiums? I mean, everything that they
I
do.
think you're saying it could have been if they
Yeah.
would have opted for doing a premium
Yeah.
program. But
It'd be like
it
me
was an
telling
option
you to
at
set
that
premiums, but we don't set, when we put this in place, the individuals, the road department gave us the premiums. The parks department gave us, every department gave us, we asked, what kind of premiums do you have out there? Any type of certifications that you can get? We want to pay the employees. If they have certifications, we want to pay them for what they're worth. There's no premiums. So
You're not
that
an
pay
argument.
scale you have 4, I think it's 4 classes. So he's in the class 1, and I've had the same conversations. The only justification that, per that admin code, was that he's working alongside somebody else who's making more than what the class 4 is. Because when this was put in place, we didn't reduce them to a class 4 level. We left them at the rate of pay, and as they retire, that rate of pay will go with the retirement. I mean, so the justification to say, well, the guy beside him is making $20, so I need to be making $20. That's not a justified reason to pay somebody 20.
I think
Well,
we
and
pay
I-
people what they're worth.
I think, and I agree. I think we all agree with
Yes.
that. But I also, but I can see the other side too, and that is, let's think about it. If those 3 guys do leave, so let's say he's upset now that he's not, and I'm not saying he is, but let's just say, I'm because the other guys make this much. Well, then if I'm the one who's been there for 5 years and then we bring in 3 new guys and pay them the exact same as him, it disincentivizes me, even if I'm on the top level, to me. That's
But
my,
when he's been there for a year and he's proved that he's a dang good worker,
yeah.
you want to keep good workers. Workers are hard to find right now.
I don't
Very
disagree
hard to
with you.
find.
Well, hang on a second,
I don't,
'cause
I don't disagree with you
And
there,
I-
and I'm not saying not to do something, but I think I feel like on a
I see
ratcheted,
where you're
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, and in
Just
the
from-
spirit of the discussion, the other things that we're not including is healthcare. I'm a prime example. When I first started out my career in law enforcement, healthcare was 100% funded. And that following year, that went away. And year by year, more monies were taken out of my pocket because, and I had to pay for my health care. One of the benefits that we have for all of our employees is that we have a really good health care. I mean, probably one of the best in the state. So in the spirit of the conversations that I've had with the supervisor and even some of the other employees, none of that was acknowledged. And, you know, we as the governing body, we have to look at it in the total aspect. We are putting health care on the table that is tremendous health care benefits for our employees. And the pay is even comparable. So when you put those two together, we're doing the best we can with taxpayers' monies to, one, pay employees for, you know, what they're worth to provide the service. But we can't get fixated on what, you know, this one's making and the guy beside me is making, because, you know, the pay scale that's in place, that's not how it's set up. Now, that was the way it was years ago, but that's changed. And it's just a mindset to understand that, just kind of like what you were talking about, once this individual gets 5 years in, he's going to work up that pay ladder. And then as new employees come in, they're going to start out just like he did. I've been through that, and I didn't throw a fit. I understood that the benefits that I got for providing service as an employee, this is the pay I got. And two, managing that. I mean, payroll that's a huge expense, and if it's not managed to the best abilities, it can get out of control quick. And then it really ties us as far as when we have projects that we have to do as we move forward. But
We've been
it's a
arguing about
slippery
this
slope.
for 5 months, and we ain't come to any agreement on it, so we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
But I think as of today, the admin code is in conflict with what you're requesting. So I don't know, as today or even Friday when we meet, I think the admin code is where, you know, we'll have to discuss that, because the month of June is when the fiscal court is to review the admin code. So
Friday's a
we'll be
regular
doing that Friday.
meeting, isn't it?
And the problem we have is, I don't know how that's going to look in an admin code. I don't know if it can be, it can't be, with the timeline that we have put on ourselves, the first reading and the second reading, and a substantial change in between those two readings. I don't think we can get that done in a timely manner. It's something to,
Can't get it done in, what,
Well, you'd have to have it done between now and the first reading,
yes.
which is, what is that, the 23rd? Is that what we set it for?
I think our drop
the
dead date was
13th,
the
that
23rd.
Wednesday?
It has to be done by the 23rd.
Has to be done by the 23rd.
Now, whether y'all
Yeah.
do it that day, if we have it done before, we can do it before.
So that would be next Wednesday, right? So, I mean, there's
And is the admin code one?
time.
Admin code. Yeah, no, but I think the admin code. So it's an ordinance as well.
I don't know if that's the only thing between, to me, if that's the only thing between the first reading and the second reading that's changed, I don't think that'd be a substantial, though.
Payroll?
I'm saying that one thing, yeah.
So you're wanting to change one employee?
Well, no,
I mean, you
No.
change the admin code, that's going to be the entire, that's what I'm saying. I don't think, I understand what the conversation is, but I don't think that, it definitely could be something that we look at as an admin code, but I don't know if we'll be able to get it for this budget. I don't think we'll have time. And we're only talking about one employee. I mean, you've got other employees that are expecting the same thing. That's why I say, I think you're gonna, it has to be looked at in a totality, because it's got big dollars attached to it. And, one thing that, this budget does is it gives pay raises for others, but not for, I think we've got pay raises for the sheriff, you got the clerk's office with pay raises. There's some inconsistencies there.
Same thing with the sheriff's office. I mean, if we don't start paying their deputies what they're worth, they're gonna go to surrounding counties. I mean, they're getting paid more in surrounding counties, isn't that correct?
Lowest paid in our county.
Being in that career, I can tell you that pay is not always the deciding factor.
But it makes things a hell of a lot easier, at least it does in my house.
Yeah, but I can tell you,
Yeah.
it's not always the deciding factor.
Never get busted with the microphone.
What else?
I had, as I think most of you probably did, I had someone reach out about the tennis courts and the condition there. Major need of resurfacing. I was wondering if Brittany would be willing to address us on that and what kind of cost we're looking at. Certainly one for trying to maintain what we have when we can.
Okay, so the tennis courts, I guess it was 2 years ago, we attempted to get the USTA grant to resurface the tennis courts. For multiple different reasons, the USTA grant was not an option for us, so we did get quotes then. They ranged anywhere from $12,000 on the very, very low end to $17,000. Like I said, those quotes were done about a year ago, so I feel like allowing for $17,000 is the safer bet because of the way costs have gone up on everything. The state that the tennis courts are in right now, as I talked to you guys about when I submitted that originally, it's flaking off. So we did have somebody recently that I think some of the surfacing slipped off while he was playing tennis, and I think that's when you all started getting phone calls about it, because it is actually flaking up at this point. So $17,000 would be a safe bet to get those resurfaced. And we could line them at that point for pickleball as well, which I know is something else that we were getting a lot of calls and stuff about. Doing it this way, just servicing it through a private company and not utilizing a grant, that does allow us to dually line that, so we can also have pickleball as well.
So pickleball, I assume, has a different size court.
Yes, it's just
Okay.
lined differently, but it can all be set up there on the same court, so they can utilize those same courts for tennis and for pickleball.
Okay.
And the USTA grant would have prevented us from lining it for pickleball. So just doing it this way and footing that bill gives us the option of lining it for pickleball as well.
So the lining for both would be included in those
Yes,
estimates you spoke of?
17,000 should get us
Okay.
covered for the whole shebang.
So,
However, received several calls about people that been getting injured out there.
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
and definitely, you're saying, I think you and I talked about this, but that the money for that is not in one of these current
Correct.
items.
I confirmed that with Erica. There wasn't, that 17,000 was not allotted for in any of those lines.
Okay, so, and there's nowhere for that to come in those current lines.
No.
Brittany, is there anything else? I mean, I know you have a lot of things you'd like to do, but is there anything else that's posing a safety hazard?
Sure. So I sent everybody an email, I believe it was last week. I know that we did get covered in here to have Buckhorn and Birmingham docks fixed. Just last week, Rocky Point dock essentially came unhinged. So we've roped it off, closed it to the public. I'm waiting on Twin Lakes Mooring to be able to get out there to give me an estimate on the repair for it. They haven't been able to get out there yet, so I'm just waiting on that to come back. Hopefully, I'll have that by the middle of this week. Don't have that yet. The only other thing I believe was $5,000 to patch the holes in the walking trails. That I feel like I can probably come up with that out of one of the lines that was increased back to the pre-COVID state. I spent some time looking at that today, and I think that I can make that 5,000 come out of there somewhere. But that's probably the only other liability issue that I've got as of today. Now that could change by tomorrow, but as of today, I think that's what we've got.
The patching for the walking trails was on your needs list, so it's actually already in here.
So it
It's-
is in there.
Yeah, it's in line, the one that says County Park Improvement Project Maintenance.
Okay.
It went back to 25,000, which was pre-COVID, plus 5,000 for this, what you've asked, this whole patching that you've asked for, plus 3,000 for hardened
Ball court lights.
ball cart lights.
Okay, perfect. I knew the ball court lights were in there, but so that was the line I was thinking I would be able to make it work out of, so that's perfect.
Where are you?
It's 33,000, and it's, the line ends in 7180 in the
Okay.
parks budget.
All right.
So one other thing that we do need to look at while we're on my budget, this isn't necessarily a liability issue, but Aurora, the community park there, with the WAC Pack, and I believe this will be discussed in court on Friday, but the WAC Pack is not going to renew their lease. So all of those utilities are going to be coming back to the Parks Department. I have talked to electric, water, and the sanitation district, and it looks like we're going to need an additional $2,300 to be able to cover the utilities for the Aurora Community Park.
Before we get into that discussion, the 17,000 for the tennis court, where's that coming from?
I know we don't want to have a discussion on ARPA, but the 183 grant money, do you have any idea if that is something as a one-time cost?
Remind me what the 183.
I know
grant- when
we're
you
not
say
going to
183
do
grant,
it.
Which one are you
I
talking
know
about?
we're not going to do it in this particular budget, but is that a possibility in next year's budget?
Well, let me put it this way. The grant monies that they're putting out there, they've obviously told us how much monies are coming to our county, and there's still confusion and working out the details as far as what they can be spent for. I believe the auditors told us $80 billion has been put towards auditors to audit those dollars. And I think any misappropriations of those dollars I mean, they're already looking at the CARES monies. We need to be very cautious with those dollars. I've said that, I'll beat that drum, because that resolution is going to have my name on it. And I don't want the DARPA monies to be used for filling budget gaps.
Your name may be on the resolutions, and I totally understand that. But those monies won't be spent without all of our butts on the line, though.
Right. But I don't think the DARPA money should be used for budget hose.
I don't think this is
We're talking about paving a tennis court.
Yeah, I don't think this is I'm talking
I
about.
think he's
the Miracle
referring to
League,
the
but-
Miracle League, and
about
I
the
know
Miracle
McCracken's using their entire allotment for their sports complex, unless they've changed their mind
Oh,
since I
that's
talked to them a few
McCracken.
days ago. So,
I-
sports
I-
complex, Miracle League,
Those dollars, I just don't think that,
I think we got an opportunity with these dollars. You're not gonna get this kind of money, once in a generation. And if we could put it towards something that, we can look down the road and say, this is what we done with our money, I think that's a smart route to go.
well, I agree with you. I think we all know that parts of the county don't have potable water access to it. I think that is something that definitely could benefit folks in our community. I just
I think our park
discourage.
is something that's very important, and a lot of folks utilize our park too.
Yeah, but this is a budget item. This is resurfacing the tennis courts is not, these monies are not going to be revenues from every fiscal year. This is a one-time dump of millions of dollars into our coffers that can go to fix major projects, big projects. We nickel and dime these dollars, we're not going to get anything done. And servicing a tennis court, I mean, it's just, where are those dollars going to come from out of the budget that we're looking at right now? I think that's what we should be focusing on.
Well, that's, all right, so if we add that, that's 17,000 plus the 2,300 for utilities. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, before we have that conversation.
You
They-
want to know individually where that
Well-
17 is coming from?
Well, these are two different situations. The utilities, let's look at it as a business model. In the previous years, the lease agreement that the court had with the entities that were using our facilities, they covered the utilities. Just like the lease I read with the Hardin Senior Citizens, they covered the utilities. It was in their names. Same thing here. It's in the entity's name that had the lease with us. The monies that they make off of the events that they host at our park should cover those utilities. On a business model, if you're running a business, you're going to put your fee structure in place to where you're accounting for the cost. If it's $2,300 a year for utilities, I'm going to make my $2,300 to pay that bill for those entities that are, coming into the park. We're providing the park. We've got that lease with them. If they're canceling or not canceling, if they're not going to renew their lease, then that expense falls on us. I think we need to put and we talked about this, I think we need to put a fee structure in place for entities, just like we do out at the Mike Miller Park. If they want to use the park, then there should be some fees associated that cover the $2,300 so that it's not an expense to the taxpayer.
Yeah.
Instead of us just saying $2,300 will cover that utility, because there's still, we haven't got into it, but there's still labor costs, Just the bathrooms alone can be a mess to clean up. There's a cost, for all of that. Having somebody go out and make sure that whatever we say that we'll have provided is provided, those terms need to be laid out. But definitely a fee for the use of the county property so that we can at least recoup some of those expenses.
I agree with you. Are you proposing, though, which I assume you're probably not, but to assume those receipts to offset the expense? Or are we just going to put the expense in there and anything that comes in is just over and above what you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd say we do it consistent with what we're doing already. We have organizations that, say you want to rent or use a pavilion out the park. You pay for that pavilion, and those monies go back into the parks
Yeah.
department.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not disagreeing on that. What I'm asking though is, are you suggesting though that we offset that expense with a line item for rent of that same?
No, however we want to do it. I'm not suggesting one way. I'm just saying, instead of trying to say we'll cover 100% the expense, we need to set it up. So I'm up for discussion on however we want to do it.
I totally agree with you. I just, for the purpose of the budget, just wonder, do we make an assumption? I'm like like what you're talking about with rent of other buildings, we have historical data that we could go back, I guess, and see how much we rent or whatever. But with Aurora, that's a totally different situation. It's new rental. So do we budget for 5 events at $500 a pop?
I think
You
it's
know
going
what
to be
I'm
really
saying?
hard to predict what the usage is going to be at this point, because I know the WAC Pack is wanting to use the Aurora Community Park, but then they also have alternate locations that they may be hosting some things at as well. There are some events that, like a bow fishing tournament weigh-in and things like that, that we will have to assume responsibility for, that will book through us and will manage there. But with having no historical data really to track from on how this is going to work, I would be scared to not budget for the full amount until we see how this relationship is going to work and how it's going to look. It would be hard to base it off of the last 2 years' data, which is what I have, just because we're not going to be there and managing it like the WAC Pack has. So I feel like we would be running a risk if we don't budget for this full 2,300, and let's take this as a learning year to see what we can do and what we can offset and how we structure the fees.
I say we structure the fees definitely so that we at least attempt to recoup some of our expenses. And if we want to put the $2,300 in the budget to cover for that, I mean, that's something that we can do now or we can appropriate in later. It's
And I don't want to
however
see us.
we want to do it.
Well, there again, it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of like what we just talked about with the admin code. We've been told that, but it hadn't happened yet either. So can we, you know what I'm saying? The 2,300? I mean, until they come and turn over the keys and do that, do we assume
Yeah, they
they
sent-
submitted the
Yeah.
letter like they were
Yeah.
asked to do? Okay.
Yeah, Jason said that they have
So
to.
it's done.
Yeah,
All right.
it's done.
Okay.
It's going to happen. So I mean, we can set it up however.
As far as consistency, Monty, I kind of think you were asking about what we do with the other park buildings that we rent, that we don't budget those in, the receipts in for those, not in, they're sporadically rented. We don't budget the receipts in for those because they don't come into this budget, they go into the Parks Foundation.
Yeah, so like this one was in the agreement. Any monies that came in, it just funneled right through to that organization. So that's going to have to be another agreement that's in place.
So you're just gonna add it, because all utilities are come out of one line, right? Are you just gonna add
The
it to
park has a
utilities,
utility,
or
the
you
park has a
just?
utilities line. It's 5780.
Oh, okay, they have a separate. Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, that's been a very realistic number in the past, don't you think? I'm not
2300.
sure. Well, the 97.5, if you look, has covered by
17, 18, 18, 19, yeah.
yeah, $5,000-6,000. I mean, so I don't know. Because it can't be, yeah, that's $2,300 based on what it's doing now, but it should be less than that. And the only way it's going to be more than that, I assume, is if we have stuff there and then we're bringing in revenue to support that cost.
So unlike the one in Hardin, there's no activity there, and it's costing us. But,
You know what the minimum cost is, yes.
Yes.
Whereas at
And-
Aurora,
and-
you don't truly know the minimum
Right.
cost.
yeah.
And I think that that is, a conversation that we're going to need to have in more detail, not necessarily budget related, but just about how we want to handle that property, for sure. Because there's going to be a lot entailed in restructuring and kind of figuring out how to manage a property on the other end of the county. So it's definitely not a conversation that we have to have today, but do be keeping that in your minds, because it is a conversation we're going to have soon.
The donation money that we received for
Mm-hmm.
Aurora, we,
Yes, we do have those money. They are in the Parks Foundation account. We are not on a timeline of when we have to spend them. So I did do the community survey of Aurora. The largest percent, I think it was close to 70% of people that responded to the survey wanted some type of playground equipment somewhere in Aurora. So I do think that that's definitely a strong enough percentage that's a good representation of what the community wants. So I did talk to Jason, but we are not stipulated by a time frame on when we have to spend that. So we can wait and see what's going to happen at this park. We can look at other locations, but we don't have to jump to a decision right away.
Do you have a suggestion for that $2,300?
I was actually just about to ask for clarity. Am I supposed to be putting that on the running total of what we need to come up with?
That's not an answer. That's a question back to a question.
What's the 97 for the utility line, has that got any room?
Well, that's what I was saying.
actual-
I mean, like in the last one that we have full expenses, it covered it, but then the one before that was 98,000. And then the next one, we only have like 9 months worth for some reason instead of a full year, right?
Is that the year?
Or is that wrong
What you
as
looking-
far as
what you
the
looking at?
0331 actual FY 1920 expenses? Is that 331 truly?
That's the whole year.
Okay, it is
My
the whole
suspicion
year.
there would be
That-
if things shut down in March.
We had shutdowns for COVID, so that would have
Oh,
really
oh.
affected that one.
That's
Yeah.
that's 20, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's 80,000 through. Well, then why is it so much less? Well, we did have COVID. Never mind. Forget about that pandemic.
Yeah.
mean, it's really close. We're full on.
Yeah, I think we put a fee structure in place, and then we cross the bridge when it's not,
Leave this at 97.5,
yeah.
and if we
So-
get to May of,
An option that I do have, and this could kind of solve this problem with the software that I have at the park, I can actually flag and identify revenue by facility, basically. So if we are 6 months in and we're seeing that we're going to need that money, I can actually pull a report and see how much revenue has been generated from that park specifically, and we can pull those funds into that line if need be. So that is another option. If you want to go that way, we have the capability of separating that out by facility, so that wouldn't be an issue at all.
okay.
Okay. We identify the 17,000.
Mhm. Can I ask what the Christmas line goes to? Is that
Yes.
new, all,
No,
that's
it is not
completely
all
new
new.
lights?
It is repairing. A lot of the lights were donated a long, long time ago, and the lights have gone out and the poles are breaking. So, like this past year, with us not having that budget, we actually weren't able to put out all of our Christmas light displays. So, the majority of that money goes to replace lights, to repair lights, that kind of a thing. We're switching them over to LED. And so that's what a big chunk of that goes to each year, is to take those old lights off and put LED on so we can keep them working. Like I said, that's the biggest chunk of that.
Okay, what else?
I think the only other thing, you asked me to look at the Miracle League numbers. So there's 183.4, somebody have the budget in front of them, in the Miracle League line.
595.
183,595. Okay. The most updated opinion of cost from CMS and BFW shows the county portion of the project to be at 222,495. I actually found one discrepancy in that. It should actually be 35,000 less because the scoreboard has been donated, which actually bring the county's estimated portion to 187. So there is about a $4,000 difference in what is budgeted and what CMS estimates the county's portion to be. And that's the only other thing that I could find that needed to be looked at, just $4,000.
What was that number
off.
again?
Sure, so the updated total would be, or actually, Erica, can you give me an exact number? It would be,
Yeah, it's up here. It's, what's right in there, it's on there, 183,
Nope.
575.
No.
Oh,
this is a different one. So it would be 222,495
222, 495,
minus 35,000.
187, 495.
Okay, and then subtract the 183,595 from that.
So 3,900 more.
Okay. And this is based on the most recent opinion of cost from them. And this should be the final one. They are actually going to be delivering all of the finalized work to me on Wednesday so that it will be ready to go out to bid after that. So this should be the last updated opinion of cost from them.
Any suggestions? 3,900.
Are you asking me? Okay, good. Because you looked at me when you said it, and I don't want any part of it.
I have a question, Brittany.
Yes.
I know that one of the requests that you had was to put your budget back to pre-COVID, and that included one additional employee from what you have this current year. And so I did put that in there.
Yes.
I put them in at $12 an hour, and I don't know if you told me that figure or if I just guessed. So is that appropriate before we move forward?
Honestly, it has been so long since we have had a new hire in maintenance. I don't even know what the starting salary is.
Okay,
for a
because
full-time
I
new
think I
hire.
just made that decision on my own, and that might not
Okay.
have been the correct amount.
Yeah, we would need to check the admin code on that because we haven't been able to hire anybody in so long that it seems like that was what the part-time people made, but I don't know that that's what the full-time started at. I wouldn't think that it would be. So that probably needs to be checked.
Can you tell me who the last person who held that position was, and I could kind of see what their pay changed
Yeah.
over time?
The last person hired in, see, nobody has been hired in for full-time though since the admin code changed.
Okay.
Yeah. That I can think of. I think everybody was in before.
Off the top of my head, I believe that $12 is in the range. But without having the code, I don't know.
She's gonna pull it up. It should be, class one. Staff one, as it is now, is $11.97.
Okay,
Right at the lower end.
perfect. And that will just, we had pre-COVID, we had 1 full-time and 2 part-time. So this is not replacing the 2 part-time, this is just bringing back the 1 full-time that we lost.
What's the seasonal mowers are not the 2 part-time?
So these are just seasonal people that came in this summer. In the past, we actually had 2 part-time people year-round.
So that's legitimate what it is.
So
Right.
are we, I don't even know, I didn't know until today what was included in that. So are we budgeted to get the seasonal people again next year as well?
Right, so this is next year. This is a seasonal at half a year, so they'd be the first half of the summer and then
Okay.
the end of next, the end of the next
So
fiscal
we'll
year.
get those seasonal people
So
again
yes,
for next year.
two seasonal mowers for half a year.
Okay.
$12 an hour. There are no
That's-
part-time in here.
Okay, that's fine.
Because the last budget I looked at didn't have them in there, but that doesn't mean, when you asked for pre-COVID, I looked at one the year before, and I
Okay.
didn't see them, but that doesn't mean that I didn't overlook them.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is the first year, this is the first time we've ever had seasonal. In the past, we had always had just 2 part-time year-round, which the 2 seasonal like this is working out great for us. I could double check with Matt, but I feel like this is good as opposed to doing 2 part-time year-round. I feel like we're getting them in there when we really need them the most, so.
This new hire, will that be able to take care of the problem that you and I discussed the other day at Waterfield?
It would help. So basically, the situation right now is, we are down employees from pre-COVID, and we've taken on so much more since the refuse department is no longer handling any of the day parks. It's really stretched us thin. So yes, adding another person back in is definitely going to help ease the burden of getting all of these day parks taken care of.
Is that it?
I think that's all I've got. Do y'all have any other questions for me?
No, thank you.
All right, one last time. 17,000, any suggestions where that's gonna come from?
So right now you got 17 to 39 and the 7,200.
I've kind of just listed everything we've talked about and said whether there's been a consensus to change. So the coroner's lease, there seems to be a consensus to change. Not yet on Tilson until you guys, I guess, address the admin code. Utilities, seems like you guys are okay with leaving it where it is since it's such a little difference and hoping it works out, or addressing it at that time that it goes over. So then I have the tennis court, potentially another broken dock. I don't remember the name of it. And then she just said a Miracle League needs to be 3,900 more, and I haven't written anything on that yet, whether you guys want me to change that. I'll be keeping a list, so if you guys wanted to continue, I can give you the list again at the end, and you could go through and talk more about which ones you want to continue to discuss. I know I need to bring up the treasurer's bond again, because I got an answer back from Keiko. And what they said was that whoever's appointed at treasurer, when I'm out, they would need to hold another bond as an appointed treasurer, and they're for a year, but then they would prorate us all of it back. But so we'd have to pay it up front, but they'd prorate every month we didn't use back to us. So what I said last time was actually still a little under. It needs to be 1,500 more even than it is now. And when that's prorated back to us and we get it back as a receipt, you guys can amend that in and put that, and spend that wherever you want. I'm sure by that time, something will have come up that was not budgeted for that would need to be spent on.
Will they prorate yours too, since you will not be using
My
it?
understanding is they will prorate anyone that's kind of turned off. So if Des is appointed treasurer for a short time, her assistant one should be turned off, basically, and we should get a refund for that while it's not in use. And then the one that she will use, once it's canceled again, they will reimburse the prorated bond. So a chunk of that should come back to us, yeah. And we'll just amend it back into wherever you want to spend it.
You say 1,500?
Yes, I kind of gave the Keiko lady a breakdown of what I thought it would cost, because I told her we were budgeting, and she said it seemed like the way I had calculated it would be right. So yeah, about 1,500 more. That would need, that line with 64 would need to be 7,900.
I've got a question on the jail budget.
7,900?
Okay, the jail,
Roger happens to be sitting back there too, so. The 122,100 less on the deputy salaries, is that amount the two that haven't been rehired? I know they're two short currently.
That figure was, I've got X's. The Rushing and Springer, are those the two that?
Those two left roughly about a month, I think May
Yeah.
8th, 9th.
Theirs are in there. Those two are in there.
Okay, they're still in.
Yeah. Those two are in that 730. You there? Yeah. 736.4, is that the number that's on there? Yeah. And then, and the young blood replacement, that's another thing that's on there. Is that something?
Okay, how many, so how many openings are we showing right now?
openings,
Yeah,
can you see that from back there? That,
no, I can't.
if you wanted to get up and look a little close, if you wanted to just skim real quick and make sure all your guys are there.
I feel closer now.
Well, because some of these guys might have left and been replaced, and I just didn't change out the names. So if you can skim and see if I've missed anybody, and if I haven't, then there's no empty spaces unless I have somebody on here that's already left.
I think when I met with you, 18 deputies.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna print it really quick, and that way I can compare it to last year's. There you go.
That looks right. I think right now I've got 13 full-time males, 4 full-time females, 1 part-time female. So give you 15.
That's what I had.
18
It's 3 cooks.
with two open with Rushing and Springer.
Oh, so this is an open spot?
Yes, that one and Rushing are open.
Rushing. Okay.
What's that replacement mean? What's that replacement? Young blood.
Oh, young blood.
But was there plans for him to
He's
retire?
actually part-time.
Oh, okay.
Kind of billing full-time right now, but part-time.
So he's still there.
Yeah, he's budgeted in there to be full-time.
I got you.
Okay, but still though, with the 122,000, where are we standing at right now on paper for deputies?
Let me look and see. That will take me several minutes to look at, so you'll have to bear with me.
Well, while we're bearing with you, I'd just like to mention, and guys, I certainly know that money is tight. And with all that, I mean, honestly, you can tell me to go out and hire 10 today. I can't get people. I can't hire people. I mean, I don't even have applications to hire people. And we talk about my overtime, and let me tell you something. There's nobody hates it worse than my people. I mean, I'm working them to death. But at $13 an hour, it takes a special person to work down there for $13 an hour. I mean, especially nowadays when you can sit at home and make more than that. You know? But, I mean, I can't hire people. And with that, I mean, I'm sure that you got in corrections period. I mean, Edible, you know, corrections all over the state. You just can't hire people.
You're burning out the ones that you have potentially.
Burning them
I mean,
out.
working them all the
Burning them
time.
out. I was at a conference last week, and one of the trainings was officer fatigue, and that's exactly what it's about, burning them out. Now, and with that, I mean, as you said earlier, I mean, money is a big concern, but, you know, when you're making $13 an hour, then a time and a half, you're still not making nothing, but having to be there all the time. You know. But, you know, and with that, even with the staff I've got, they're adding those two on, I'm still short. You know. I mean, I have one guy supervising 84 inmates. You know, could you imagine? I mean, one guy supervising, when it's full, when my restricted custody is full. You know.
I think y'all's salaries are extremely low, especially for the kind of work you do, like you say.
I appreciate
It takes a special person to do that. I know
Oh.
I wouldn't go down there for $13 an hour to put up with what they put up with.
Thank you. And honestly, I encourage you to come down and spend a day with us sometime. I mean, it definitely know what they're going through. But, I mean, I was wondering where we was at on salaries right now.
Hey, Roger, while you're here, I requested the time that was earned by your employees, the documents, how that time was earned, and I haven't got it yet. I got a spreadsheet with just a number, but I never got the documents on how the numbers were managed. So if you get a chance, if you can get that to me.
Okay. Well, I mean, my people go by their anniversary as far as how much time they
Yeah,
receive each year.
just the documents, that's all I need.
And I sent you one document. I don't think that's probably what you was necessarily wanting on the monthly report from 16 to current. Did you see that?
Yes, I got those.
Okay. And actually, last week I got with some other jailers. Matter of fact, one of them emailed me today a little bit of something what they send their court. So hopefully I'll have something better than that, but that was the closest thing I had to the information you was needing.
Yeah, and I think if you look at I think it's KRS 144, that statute, it outlines
But it says, though, that the form would be provided by the department of what they was wanting.
yeah, no, what I'm saying is just the information. That's something that
Yeah, and
you
I
can
think
present
that's
to the
what I
court.
sent you,
Yeah, yeah.
I guess while we're also talking, I mean, the boilers, I mean, we've got to decide what we're gonna do there. And I mean, we're running on borrowed time
That's about half of our infrastructure.
Question for you, Erica, just a clarification, since we're a couple weeks past the last time or maybe a month past the last time we discussed it, but based on current receipts and expenses and all that stuff, do you still anticipate the same amount as far as CARES using? Okay, nothing's changed there. Okay.
Not yet. You know what, I take that back. We're on, what, 615?
Like 625.
14.
Oh, you're
As
talking
long-
about the date.
The date,
Okay,
sorry.
my bad.
As long as there's not anything excessive coming through for your bills, I don't think he will need that last 80,000 because of the timing of how the state payments have came in. But again, that's as long as there's nothing excessive, like say over $10,000 left for the year
Oh, I've
of
got,
bills.
I mean, I got a dishwasher, we're probably looking at 12 to 14,000. I mean, I've been, I mean, you know, I'm way past doing it. I was gonna try to get it in on this year.
So it may be that it doesn't need to be the whole 80, just a portion of it, and that would leave a little bit more to carry over into next year, into that budget, or into whatever you guys direct me to do with it. So I would say a portion of the 80, but maybe not the whole 80. That last 80 of CARES.
And that
we
is
thought he was
not
gonna
in
need.
the 625, or you were assuming another 80 when
Right,
you came
that's
up
what
with the
I'm telling you.
625.
That's right. Yes.
But where are we standing on a deputy salary, though? That,
As far as what's the difference from your last year to this year?
well, I guess.
I'm kinda
up to
looking at
this
that right
point
now.
This year.
Up to this point this year? All right, hold on, you'll have to give me a second. Do you also want to know the answer to the difference between the budget? Because I'll have to get that too.
Well, we don't have anything current. What we have is April
Yes.
30th, showing 7/15/09.
Right. Yes. Right. So give me a second. Let me I thought you were asking me about the budget, which is what I've been looking at, so just a second.
Roger, how long have you been too short?
Pardon me?
How long have you been short two employees?
I think those two left May the 8th, 9th, something like that. Of course, I lost one last year, and I lost one 2 years ago also.
Yeah, let me clarify what we're talking about here, though, because those two from May are in here.
Right. They're
So
in.
they're included to be able to replace.
Yes, yes.
So that 122, it does look like, it does look like a big figure, but I don't really know where that. It feels more like the 871 is not legitimate. Not legitimate, that's the wrong word, but was not accurate or something.
What are we looking at?
'Cause you know what I'm
The
saying? I mean,
871?
like, huh?
The prior year budget?
Yeah. That feels,
I thought it was, yeah, I mean, I don't know why, but I thought it was like 752. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the 871, but I guess it was.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think
I think what you're looking at, and all of us, what we see is a big negative number, like you've, let go. But my gosh, that can't be, because $122,000 could be. I mean, that'd be some experienced folks
Yeah,
gone.
yeah.
That wouldn't be just your, 1 year or 2 year deputy.
Correct.
So I wasn't as focused when I was looking through these numbers. I wasn't focused on the difference as much as I was looking at what's the full time, and how many is that and all that stuff. And
Okay, so as far as the question of where you're at right now, it'll take me more than a few minutes probably in this I can do, because I have to set the period back to see the last period in our system, because our system does things like that sometimes. So, I mean, I don't think it's something I can get you right now. It's gonna take me time to change the system period, pull reports, change the system period back, pull up the other half of the reports.
And with that, I mean, if I'm at 7:15 and we go to, and that's what, April? And we go to 7:49, I don't see enough money there.
That's what caught my eye.
And as far as the budget part, to tell you the difference, I mean, that's part of the double check process, is I'll go through and make sure everybody who actually works there is in there, with their pay rates are correct. And so that will take time too. So that's something I could get back to you on. Let me do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 20. So there were 20 people budgeted last year in the deputy salaries, just like there's 20 people budgeted currently.
yeah,
So I would have to dig into every person.
I feel like if I'm sitting here looking at this now, trying to look at the differences in current and budgeted, I feel like it might be another issue like what we had in another department that I cannot remember at this point what it was, where maybe a cook or something like that is in the deputy's line item and not in that. You know what I'm saying? Because the cook line is down and the deputy is up, but they probably equal out the same.
Yeah, like I said, it will take time.
That's
look
what
at
it
every
looks
single
like to
person.
me.
And
Just
that
sitting
could be
here.
what it is. It could be that a formula's messed up. That's part of the reason that I need to start checking this as soon as possible before we do this read.
I have
And
had
not
a
push it
part-time
off.
cook gone for several months now. I mean, probably almost the whole year,
Oh,
you know. And there again, I mean,
Okay.
that's even lower pay. And that's probably the reason my cooks is looking down.
okay. Well,
Okay, so we don't really have, I mean, I don't. Is this 871, 400, is that what you're showing was budgeted for deputies this year?
I'm sorry, can you ask that
last,
again?
or this,
I
yeah.
was looking into something when you asked me
Yes.
that.
The 871, 400, is that what you're showing we was budgeted for?
871,
deputies this year?
400.
Current
That
budget.
The current budget, yes.
Yeah, the current budget. Hey, because when I look at the workflow, I think it's 752.
Okay, so, when I pulled last year's final budget, that deputy salary line is 752.
Okay.
So it's not that it's released that much, it's that line pulled, that when you pull over the prior year budget, it pulled it wrong.
Okay. That makes more sense. Because it's the same amount of people. It's not cutting.
Right.
Yeah. Also, now, I think we had the nurse salary in there. And I think we pulled her out and put it under medical. But did we actually really pull it out of the 871?
That is what happened.
What was it?
That is what was,
We added
we
to-
were, that's why the actual numbers look skewed, is because it should be in that
She's being paid out of the
item.
wrong line.
Yes.
Yes, so that we
Yes.
have the appropriation transfer out of the
Yes.
line she should have been paid out of to
Yes.
the line she's been paid out of.
Right.
Right.
Yes. So the actual numbers are skewed, and it makes the budget look weird, but it's not, really. So,
Yeah, I mean,
because
to
she
tell you
is
for sure
not,
that
she is not in the 730, so
Right.
if this number is 736, she's not in that.
Right.
She's in the 200. Go, in this next budget.
Yeah.
So it evens out.
in the next budget, she's in the line she should have always been in, which is other medical care and
Yes.
prescriptions. She's in with the line where they would pay for contracted doctors.
So the reason the 715 looks high based on a 752 is because she's in there.
Right.
So we
So
actually-
that will be cleared up and correct
But I don't
going
know that
forward.
for sure until I pull what you've asked me to pull
Okay,
and give it to
Just
you.
let me know on that then, because, I mean,
I-
I do see here now, yeah, we're taking
I mean,
122 here, we're adding 119 here,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
which,
evening out.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess my concern was is if we was at 715
Yeah.
at the end of April and we was going with 149 this coming year, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think that was gonna level out, right?
Yeah. I remember us now
Okay.
discussing that when you and I met, and then we talked about it in here. Now I remember.
Okay. I think that was probably the biggest concern.
Yep. Yep.
Thank
yep,
you,
yep.
Roger.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Appreciate
And like I said, just come down and see us sometime and walk around with my people and we'll see what to do. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Makes sense.
I'm sorry, I was looking into things, and so I tuned out the boiler conversation, but I heard the word boiler. Was there something I was supposed to put on this list for that we're keeping up? No, okay.
Anything else?
Yes, the road. I know he has something he wants to talk about, but I'll also explain first what he saw that I would have caught when I start to do my double checks. And that is on their receipt side here for their state-funded paving projects. The receipt in is $250,000, and the payment out is lower, $234,000, which basically means that I've allowed that to be spread out to cover these other expenses because it balances right now, and we can't do that. All of the state paid paving has to go to state paid paving. So I will need to change this to match what's in for state paid paving, $253.28. Let me look, $253.28. And so that will mean that the road fund will be off by $15,932. And so my assumption is that that will be a transfer in of occupational tax money. But however you guys want to handle that, or if you want to decrease other
32.
items in their expense budgets, that's another way to handle it. But I kind of skimmed over that already, and I don't see anywhere that could be done. But that could be a question you ask them.
Yeah, no, that's stats, well, those dollars are restricted, so.
The other one was about the salt.
Yeah. So we've got 1,200 tons of salt right now.
How much?
Did you say 1,200?
Yeah. Close as.
Did Nicole change your mind on this? Are you going to fess up?
No.
Roy and I talked about this. One thing that we can do is just leave it as is, where it's not we got 1,200 tons. And then obviously if we have a inclement weather, we've got the bids for both Compass and CAECO. That's one option. Yeah, I'd say the OTA,
15,932 to the OTA.
because we've got to pull that. We can get in big trouble.
As far as your salt, occasionally your beginning balance ends up being, more than what I estimated. That's always the hope. I always don't want to overestimate a beginning balance. So if you had a little bit more of a beginning balance when I go to roll you over on July 1, I could always amend that into salt. And that way they'd have a little bit there for salt if they needed it.
You're saying that carryover
Yeah.
is usually low. Budgeted low.
Right.
Right. Correct.
So if that ends up being over what I budgeted, then salt's one of the places it could go if we wanted to amend it back in. And address your salt problem then, way before salt season.
So like that one event, how much, just, I mean, that
The
took,
one that we had in the past?
yeah,
800 ton.
that one week.
It's 2
Well, there
weeks.
was two, wasn't there? Yeah, two right after back
Two
to
different
back.
snowstorms, and we had a full barn, and we used 800.
Oh, good, 2,000.
So
yeah.
3 snowstorms for you, 1,200. 3 snowstorms, approximately.
Three good sized
1,200
snowstorms.
tons.
That was, those are two pretty good ones.
They was.
Yeah,
They was.
but I get it.
But we also supply salt for the school in the city of Benton. So that's, we talked today, and they're gonna have to, know that if we have an inclement weather event, I mean, his priority is county roads.
Yeah, I think we sold quite a bit. I believe the school come and got quite a bit this time. So that 800 tons is not what we actually put on county roads.
Oh, I got you. That's
That's counting what the
used
school
and
used.
sold. I got you.
But if we leave it at 1,200 tons in there now, coming up in the future, if it snows a lot, I don't know how much we can share. Kind of a big guessing game on the
In a normal time, from the time that we need it to the time that we get it is how long?
You talking about the salt?
Yeah.
Well, with like Compass, they're out of Metropolis. So if we have the previous, I think it was the previous year, we had contracted X amount of salt. Well, we didn't have any inclement weather.
Right.
And so we had, if we didn't go pick it up, he was going to charge us for storing it, which is going to cost us more money. So, I mean, they did a great job working with what they had, but they just moved as much as they can. I think we got most of it moved, if not all of it.
We got all of it in the barn.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really is, it's whichever side of the coin is it lands on.
But I'm saying, like, if we get down to 400 tons and it's March or January, and 1st of January or something, and you order some, how long usually does it take to get from Metropolis?
Well, Compass, you go pick it up, right?
Oh, y'all going to pick it up?
Or no, y'all have it delivered, right?
Yeah, well, they deliver it.
Yeah. And
Is
then-
it pretty?
Well, we have waited a couple of months before to get salt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if it gets to where it's competitive because everybody's trying to get salt,
Yeah.
I mean, you can have weather situation like that as well.
Yeah.
If we's gonna have salt, I'd rather have a full barn in the summer.
So if we filled it back up it'd be how much? 800 times?
Filled it up right now.
Yeah.
With Compass Minerals, it'd be about 81,000.
Oh, alrighty.
I feel comfortable with 1,200 tons. I know Roy would rather have a full barn, but 1,200 tons, and we notify the school and the city of Benton that, hey, y'all might want to have a secondary, because, we'll share, but we're not going to give, county roads, that's what he's focusing on.
Yeah. Our kids eat first. That kind of, right? Then whoever they invited over gets the whatever. That's not true for any of you that send your child to my house.
Yeah, and
It's not
it's
feed
same
your
amount.
children when they stay
it can
home.
be no inclement weather to,
Yeah,
it really is it's unpredictable.
yeah. Just ask Noah, whatever his name is, because it's unpredictable. Oh, man.
But we did get the paving changed. So the state funds 15,932, because we have to make that right. We don't have a choice in that. All right, anything else?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay on your crap list and go ahead and bring up the paving. I would like to see a measly $6,000 put in there to pave that addition on Horn Cemetery Lane that you and I and Roy met at 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and I did have $6,000 identified, but that was taken off the table.
6,000 or closer to 7,000?
It was closer to
Was that
7.
7?
That's
Yeah.
what I thought.
Okay, so 7.
Yeah,
Let's do 7.
and I had 7,000 identified, but
That cannot be done within the 600,000?
We go out and prepare all the roads almost a year in advance,
Yeah,
hoping that we get $600,000
yeah.
and 250 from the state. As of right now, we're gonna have to, because the blacktop went up, we're gonna have to cut 2 roads off of our paving list as it is right now.
Mm.
Plus the 250 that Nicole applied for from the state, or the flex money, we're over that, so by $4,000 or $5,000, something like that, so that's gotta come out of the 600,000.
let's wait on that, because it's 6,000, it's under $7,000. And I think as we go through this budget year, let them, what they've already got prioritized as far as paving, I don't think it's going to be a problem identifying it. I'd rather not.
As long as we have a plan to get it paved, I'll be comfortable with that. As long as we've got a plan to get it paved. Because it's going on 6 years. It's supposed to be paved. Just kept down the road. Nobody's fault. It's happened. We gotta prioritize stuff, so. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Not anything else.
Have we talked about the courthouse roof? What we're gonna do with the roof?
We had a plan to fix that, but that plan got derailed to a certain degree, not from our end. I'm waiting on some communication back. That's basically going to be a cost that we do have monies set aside, obviously, to cover that expense, but to tell you what it's going to cost right now, it's changed. I don't know what that cost is going to be. I'm waiting to hear back.
So What's our total, Erica, with the coroners and then the tennis court, and was there something else?
We haven't identified where the
Yeah, that's
monies
why
are
I'm
coming.
asking for the total.
Are we done with our list so far? 72, I have 72 corners. 72 corners, lease. The next one, I think there's consensus to wait on. Tennis court, 17,000. Sorry, you want me to give you a running total? Let me start my calculator here. There wasn't an amount on the additional dock yet. We're not changing utilities. Miracle League needs to be up by 3,900. If you're gonna change, my bond, it needs to go up by 1,500. Monty's training budget will be an in and an out. The ARPA funds need to be added, that will be an in and an out, so no difference. The road, is 15,932. And that's what I've got on my list so far, 45,532.
And just so we know, again, the 17,000, as far as where that's coming from, hasn't been identified for the tennis court.
I would say add it to the occupational tax and be done with it.
I think none of it's been identified,
No.
right?
Not really, no.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
The total unidentified is 45,532.
Yep.
To balance
I'm sorry, I was looking down at the end of my list. I meant to tell you guys. So, remember this is a good thing. Remember the last budget meeting, Andy wasn't available, and I was concerned we didn't have enough to pay for our ConnectWise. And so I pulled what it normally was, which was $500 and something a month. That's for some kind of remote stuff they do that they've always paid for. That's actually already in there. The additional stuff is only $30 a month. So that line that we went ahead and increased, it can actually go back down by 6,400. So I can get 6,400 of that 45 from there. If that's what you guys want me to do.
Well, hang on a second. How much did you get that road to pave?
There you go.
We'll start with 6,400.
Okay. All right,
You gotta
so
stop a little short.
put that on my list of things to do. Okay, so
Stretch it.
GIS
We'll just put it
extra
then.
to road paving, 6,400, okay. So that leaves it at 45,532 then.
All right. That it?
No. What's my directive to change this? Y'all don't walk away and not tell me.
The 15,932, we have to change that for the road department. So the OTA, the treasurer's bond, OTA, the ARPA is budgeted, it's budgeted in. We have to do that. There hasn't been any consensus on the tennis court. The $2,300 in fees, we're just leaving that. We'll come up with a fee structure. The coroner's office is coming out of the OTAs, and then 3,900. I've got new employee for the park. Was the difference? Did I write my notes wrong on that?
No, it was actually, for some reason, what we had was 3,900 short on the Miracle League. I'm
Yes.
just not sure why.
She had gotten an updated quote or something.
Updated quote.
Oh, okay.
From CMS.
So that's- yeah.
That's the 3,900. So it's a legit, I mean, it's
That is the CMS gave the
Yes.
final proposal.
the final proposal. We were going off estimated by
Gotcha.
using that 185.
Where do we want that to come from?
I would say OTA.
Okay, so y'all told me OTA for the road paving, for the treasurer's bond, for the Miracle League difference, for the coroner's lease. Was there any others that were supposed to go to OTA?
Where is this 17,000 for the tennis court? Where do we want that from? I think it's everything.
Okay. Was there anything else? I will make these changes and then start my double check processes. If something comes up in the double check that's very minimal, say under 10,000, I'll put it to OTA.
He'll find it.
I'll put it to OTA. If it's say under 10, if it's above that, I'll ask you guys what you want.